Frederick McKinley Jones. You've never heard of him, but every single time you open your refrigerator, every time you walk past a refrigerated truck on the highway, every time you buy fresh strawberries in January or frozen pizza at the supermarket, you're living in the world Frederick Jones built. This man held 61 patents. 40 of them were in refrigeration alone. He revolutionized the movie industry. He saved thousands of soldiers' lives in World War II. And he changed how the entire planet eats. But here's what makes his story even more incredible. He was orphaned at 9. He dropped out of school in 6th grade, and he taught himself mechanical and electrical engineering by watching other people work. Oh, and he invented a portable X-ray machine that could have made him rich, but he didn't patent it. He watched helplessly as white men stole his idea and made fortunes off it. So he learned, and he never made that mistake again. This is the story of Frederick McKinley Jones, the self-taught genius who became the father of refrigerated transportation, the king of cool, and one of the most prolific black inventors in American history. Let's talk about the man who changed everything. Frederick McKinley Jones was born on May 17, 1893, in Covington, Kentucky, right across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio. His father was John Jones, an Irish railroad worker. His mother was African American, and we don't even know her name because she left when Frederick was still a child. John Jones struggled to raise him alone, and when Frederick was 7 years old, a Catholic priest named Father Ryan took him in. Frederick lived at the rectory in Cincinnati. 2 years later, his father died. Frederick was 9 years old, orphaned, living with a priest, and his job was to clean the church, cook, do grounds work, and handle general maintenance. He was bored out of his mind. So at age 11 years old, Frederick McKinley Jones ran away. He left school after 6th grade, moved to Cincinnati, started working odd jobs, and at 14, he got a job as a garage cleaning boy. But Frederick wasn't just sweeping floors. He was watching. He spent every moment observing the mechanics as they worked on cars, taking in as much information as possible, teaching himself how engines worked, how electrical systems functioned, how to fix things that were broken. By age 14, he wasn't cleaning anymore. He was working as an automobile mechanic. And soon after that, they made him garage foreman. The man had no formal education past 6th grade, but he had something more valuable, an insatiable appetite for learning. In 1912, 19-year-old Frederick Jones moved to Halleck, Minnesota. He got a job as a mechanic on a 50,000-acre farm owned by James J. Hill, the guy who owned the Great Northern Railroad. Working near Hill and the railroad, Jones taught himself about electricity and steam locomotive engines. He lived in Halleck for more than 20 years. And years later, he'd say in a newspaper interview that Halleck was a place where a man was judged more on his character and ability than on the color of his skin. Think about what he's saying there. Everywhere else in America, Frederick Jones was judged by his race. People doubted him, dismissed him, refused to believe a black man could be that smart. But in Halleck, they called him Casey, a nickname from a railroad engineer, a reference to the legendary Casey Jones. They respected him. They saw his genius. At age 20, Frederick Jones received his engineering license. Self-taught, no college, no formal training. And later, he upgraded it to the highest grade possible. He also started building race cars. His favorite was called Number 15, and it was so well designed that it beat other automobiles in local races. One time, it even beat an airplane. But here's the thing about being a black race car driver in 1910s America. Some white drivers refused to compete against him because of the color of his skin. So he kept building, kept inventing, kept proving them wrong. When World War I started, Frederick Jones joined the U.S. Army. He served in France in an all-black unit until his commanding officers noticed his mechanical skills. Then they promoted him to sergeant and put him to work as an electrician. Jones didn't just fix equipment. He performed the wiring necessary to equip his entire camp with electricity, telegraph, and telephone services. He taught other soldiers. He kept everything running. And when he came home from the war, he went right back to Halleck and kept inventing. He built a transmitter for the town's first radio station. He invented a snow machine, an early snowmobile made from an airplane fuselage, skis, and a propeller. No brakes, though. He had to dig his heels into the snow to stop. And then he invented something that should have changed his life. One of the doctors Jones worked for complained that sick patients had to come into his office for X-ray exams. Wouldn't it be better if the X-ray machine could go to the patient? So Frederick Jones invented a portable X-ray machine that doctors could take on house calls. Portable, functional, revolutionary. And he didn't patent it. He just didn't think about it. He built it, it worked, and he moved on to the next project. And then he watched, helplessly, as other men patented their own versions of the same device and made fortunes. In his own words, he watched helplessly as other men made fortunes off of their versions of the same device. That mistake taught Frederick Jones a lesson he would never forget. From that point forward, he patented everything. In 1927, a Minneapolis businessman named Joseph Numero noticed something interesting. The radio station in Halleck, Minnesota had exceptional sound quality. He tracked down who built the transmitter. Frederick Jones. Numero owned a company called Ultraphone Sound Systems that made audio equipment for movie theaters, and he hired Jones as an electrical engineer to improve the equipment. Jones didn't just improve it, he revolutionized it. He invented a device that combined sound with motion pictures, making talking pictures possible. He converted silent movie projectors into audio-visual projectors using scrap metal for parts. He improved picture quality and stability. And in 1939, he patented an automatic ticket dispensing machine for movie theaters. Patent number US 2,163,754. He sold the rights to RCA. Frederick Jones had officially revolutionized the cinema industry, but his biggest invention was still ahead of him. Real quick, if you're learning something here, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel because I'm doing a whole series on Black inventors whose stories have been erased from history. And drop a comment below. Tell me which inventor you want to hear about next. All right, back to the story, because this is where it gets wild. Summer of 1938, Minneapolis, Minnesota, a golf course. Joseph Numero is playing golf with two business associates. One of them is Harry Werner, an executive in the trucking industry, and Werner is upset. He just lost an entire cargo of chickens. The ice melted before the truck reached its destination, and everything spoiled. Numero jokes, "You need a refrigerator in your truck." Werner says, "I'll bet you $6 you can't do it." Numero goes back to his office and tells Frederick Jones about the bet. And Jones says, "I can do it." Here's what you need to understand about food transportation in the 1930s. If you wanted to move perishable food, meat, produce, dairy, you loaded the truck with ice. That's it. Just ice. And the ice would melt. The food would spoil. Truckers were losing entire shipments. Grocery stores could only sell local food or canned goods. Fresh strawberries in winter? Impossible. Frozen food? Didn't exist. The entire food industry was limited by geography and season. Some people had tried building refrigeration units for trucks before, but they all failed. The vibrations from road travel would destroy the equipment. Parts would disconnect. Refrigerant would leak. The units were too heavy, too bulky, too fragile. Frederick Jones looked at this problem and said, "I can fix this." Jones started designing. Model A, the first version. It worked. Kind of. It was attached to the undercarriage of the truck, with chilled air transported to the trailer through refrigerant tubing. But it was too heavy. Fuel costs were too high. And it sat underneath the truck where it collected dirt and road debris. Model B, smaller, lighter, but not durable enough. It couldn't handle the constant pounding of road vibrations. Model C. In 1941, Jones cracked it. Front-mounted, compact, light, shock-resistant, powered by a 4-cylinder gasoline engine, could withstand road travel vibrations. And here's the kicker. He built the prototype from junkyard salvage, scrap metal, salvage parts. Pure genius. On July 12, 1940, Frederick Jones received patent number US 2,303,857 for his automatic refrigeration system for vehicles. That patent changed everything. Joseph Numero saw the potential. He sold his movie sound equipment business to RCA. And in 1938, he and Frederick Jones founded a new company, US Thermo Control Company, later renamed Thermo King Corporation. Frederick Jones became vice president of engineering and chief engineer. Think about that for a second. A black man with a sixth-grade education became vice president of engineering at a company in 1938. That was not common. That was revolutionary. And the company exploded. By 1949, Thermo King was worth $3 million. By 1997, when it was sold to Ingersoll Rand, it was doing over $1 billion in annual sales. Today, Thermo King is still a multinational corporation. You see their refrigerated trucks on highways everywhere. All because Frederick Jones won a $6 bet. But before Thermo King went commercial, Frederick Jones's invention did something even more important. It saved lives in World War II. Model C refrigeration units were initially manufactured for military use only. They transported blood, medicine, and food to soldiers on battlefields and in army hospitals. In the steaming jungles of the South Pacific, American soldiers had fresh vegetables and meat because of Frederick Jones's invention. Field hospitals could store blood serum without it spoiling. Medics could transport blood plasma to the front lines. One publication wrote, "Doughboys and leathernecks down in the steaming jungles of the South Pacific have fresh vegetables and meat on their bill of fare because of the inventive genius of a Minneapolis man. He is Frederick Jones, veritably a black Thomas Edison." A black Thomas Edison. But most people have never heard his name. After World War II, Thermo King's refrigeration units became available for commercial use. And they changed everything. Fresh produce could now be transported across the country, year-round. Crops that were seasonal in the South could make it to the North without spoiling. Strawberries in January. Fresh fish 1,000 miles from the ocean. The frozen food industry was born. Supermarkets became possible. International food trade exploded. Container shipping, where refrigerated containers moved from trucks to trains to ships, all made possible by Jones's technology. His invention didn't just change America, it redefined the global marketplace. In 2009, Heavy Duty Trucking magazine wrote that Jones's technological breakthrough redefined the global marketplace, with cultural reverberations felt from the world's largest cities to its most isolated villages. Think about that. Every frozen pizza, every pint of ice cream, every piece of fresh fruit you eat in winter, every international food product in your grocery store. Frederick Jones made that possible. Frederick Jones didn't stop inventing. Over his lifetime, he received 61 patents. 40 were in refrigeration. The rest were in movie theater equipment, gasoline engines, sound equipment, and more. He kept filing patents almost until the day he died. His last patent was granted in February 1960, 1 year before his death. In 1944, Frederick Jones became the first African American elected to the American Society of Refrigeration Engineers. In 1953, he received a Merit Award from the Phyllis Wheatley Auxiliary for outstanding achievements which serve as an inspiration to youth. In 1991, 30 years after his death, President George H.W. Bush posthumously awarded Frederick Jones the National Medal of Technology. Jones was the first African American to ever receive this honor. His widow, Lucille, accepted the award at a ceremony in the White House Rose Garden. In 1996, the Thermo King Model C was designated an International Mechanical Engineering Landmark. In 2007, he was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame as a visionary veteran. First black member of his field, first black recipient of the National Medal of Technology, International Engineering Landmark. On February 21, 1961, Frederick McKinley Jones died of lung cancer in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He was 67 years old. The Saturday Evening Post wrote in his obituary, "Most engineers start at the bottom of a project and work up, but Fred takes a flying leap to the top of the mountain and then backs down, cutting steps for himself and the rest of us as he goes." That's who Frederick Jones was, a man who took a flying leap to the top of the mountain and then cut steps for the rest of us to follow. So why don't you know his name? Why isn't Frederick McKinley Jones taught in every school? Why isn't he on the same level as Thomas Edison or Henry Ford in our cultural consciousness? Because his story has been erased. Black inventors have been systematically written out of American history, their contributions minimized, their names forgotten. But we're changing that, right here, right now. If this story mattered to you, here's what I need you to do. Hit that like button so more people can see this video. Subscribe to the channel because I'm covering more inventors like Frederick Jones, people whose stories deserve to be told. Drop a comment and tell me, which black inventor do you want to hear about next? And share this video. Send it to someone who needs to know this story. Because Frederick McKinley Jones changed the world, and it's time we remembered his name.